Welcome back. As we mentioned earlier in the program, it's been a busy year in the state capitol, from passing the state budget to securing significant funding for cities and towns across Wisconsin. Now, Republicans are in the driver's seat, but there's been room for Democrats to work with them. We sat down with Assembly Democratic leader Greta Neubauer to discuss more about her priorities heading into 2024. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Of course. Happy to be here.
So I know Democrats are in the minority, obviously, but there's opportunities to work across the aisle, that kind of stuff. Do you have any big legislative wins from this past year?
So, of course, we work whenever possible with our colleagues across the aisle to get things done. We know that Wisconsinites send us here because they want us to be addressing the real challenges that they are facing, and we take that responsibility seriously, despite, of course, being in the minority and not being able to get all of the bills scheduled that we would like to see move forward. So we have had a number of negotiations over the course of this year. Some good bills move forward on things like housing, supporting the Milwaukee Brewers to stay in Wisconsin, and others. And we hope that we see more effort from our Republican colleagues next year to address some pressing issues. There are a number of bipartisan bills that have not moved forward, received a hearing, but there's time left in the legislative session.
I was going to say, after the first of the year, is there anything that you'd want to hit the ground running on? Anything perhaps left on the table that you'd like to see?
Sure. I mean, so many things, but I'll hit on the issue of child care. This is something we've been really focused on over the course of the year. Republicans have not been willing to address the challenges facing our child care industry. Governor Evers was able to tide over many providers with some funds, but we know that those are not going to last for long. And the legislature really needs to take action before the end of this session to make sure that that industry doesn't collapse out from under us. We, of course, know that working families continue to struggle with high costs in Wisconsin and really hope that we are able to get something done there. We still have a significant surplus here in Wisconsin, and it really is time for us to use that to address the challenges that working families are facing.
So we've heard from Republicans on the other side of the aisle related to the surplus that they want to kind of tackle in the new year a new tax cut, a focus on retirees. Do you have a sense of whether Democrats would be willing to work with them on that? Have you had any discussions on that?
Yeah, we haven't seen the details, of course, of this proposal. What we're focused on is using the surplus to support the people who really need it in Wisconsin. Over the course of the year, we've seen Republicans try in various forms to get a tax cut through that primarily benefits the wealthiest Wisconsinites. That is not something that we're interested in. What we want to do is support that tax relief to target the people who really need it, who are sitting around the table, who are looking at their budget and saying, we're short or we're tight, right? And so we are open to proposals from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle that do just that, that address tax relief, again, for the people who are struggling the most.
I want to flip really quickly to the UW funding deal, trading off some DEI positions for that much needed funding. Really interesting to see Democrats in the Assembly mobilize against the regions to have them vote that issue down. Why did you guys take that stance and mobilize quickly?
So we are very familiar with the experience of Robin Vos putting a lot of pressure on us to agree to a deal in short order, right? And in this case, by holding these positions, the raises for employees of the University of Wisconsin back as leverage, right? We know what it's like to be in that really difficult position, and we understand that the regions had a really challenging decision to make, right? Of course, we all wanted those raises to move forward, and thankfully they have now been approved by the Joint Committee on Employment Relations. We all would like to see the engineering building and other projects move forward in Wisconsin. But that just simply cannot be leverage that is used to undermine diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and the work that's happening on our campuses to make sure that every student is welcomed and feels that they belong. And we just don't think it's acceptable that particularly Speaker Robin Vos is attempting to micromanage the university system, to tell them who they should accept in their freshman class, right? To say you can't do a program to recruit minority teachers. That's not the role of the legislature, and these attacks are deeply misguided and I think are going to have long-term impacts on both the university system and the functioning of government and separation of various elements.
It sounded like the speaker was pretty firm in his stance too. So if there's a chance that the university would not have gotten a better deal, for example, I know there is that lawsuit to unlock some of the raises, for example. But if that was the best deal possible, is that still not something to give up those DEI positions over?
You know, it's, again, a really difficult position for the regents and the UW system. We understand that, but we just think it's really important to continue to press. And what we've seen in this building is that because of the gerrymandered legislative map, Speaker Voss has been able to put entities, you know, the UW system in this case, us, the governor, in really difficult positions. For example, threatening to not allow the city of Milwaukee to get their sales tax, right, and be in a really difficult financial position and extracting really serious concessions through that negotiation process. And so we just think it's really important that we continue to push and that we recognize that diversity, equity, and inclusion cannot be used as a bargaining chip, and that we make sure that the values of the people of Wisconsin are reflected in the negotiations and the compromises that are reached in this building.
So I know you don't necessarily get advice and consent in the same way that the Senate does, but we saw UW's system president, Jay Rothman, be that chief negotiator. Knowing that he came back with that deal, do you have confidence in him being able to negotiate that, those kind of deals going forward?
You know, I hope that we can. I hope that we can all recognize that the precedent that was set here is problematic. We do have Speaker Robin Voss saying that he's coming back, right? He's coming for the rest of diversity, equity, and inclusion positions, and the attempts to micromanage the university that he has made over the years have undermined the strength and the independence of our UW system. I, of course, hope that Jay Rothman is able to move forward and advocate for the university system. And I know that the regents care deeply about the students, the staff, and the faculty at our schools, and again, that they were put in an incredibly difficult position by Speaker Voss. I hope that we are in a very different position a year from now in this building, and that we do not have to have further negotiations where Robin Voss is able to put this kind of pressure on the UW system.